Turning Red is packed full of Pixar Easter eggs, subtle references, and an absolute boatload of Canadiana. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in and look at 25 things you might have missed in Pixar's latest flick. And get ready to feel super Canadian, eh? Pixar has become famous for teasing their next project in their most current movie, and Turning Red was teased in Luca with a reference to the boy band Four Town that plays a prominent part in Turning Red. For any big Pixar fans out there, you'll know that next on the animation studio's calendar is the Toy Story spin-off Lightyear, with the Chris Evans-led movie set to take off in the summer. As you could probably guess, Turning Red makes a reference to the upcoming film, with a Star Command sticker being seen on the underside of a skateboard. Keeping on with the Toy Story references, as May loses control of her emotions and goes full panda, she runs away from her school and flees home to Chinatown, running across the rooftops as her mother pursues her. As she jumps from building to building, as well as the famous Toronto skyline, we see a familiar cloud formation. That cloud formation is extremely reminiscent of the wallpaper seen in Andy's room from Toy Story, and although there was no CN Tower in his wallpaper, we can be pretty sure that the similarities were no happy accident. And still on the subject of Toy Story, locating the famous Pizza Planet truck in Pixar movies has become as commonplace as finding the Luxo Ball and A113, and the trio are seen as the original Pixar Easter eggs, but more on the other two later. So, you can bet your bottom dollar, or loonie I should say, that the truck makes an appearance in Turning Red. The famous vehicle can be seen on a Toronto street at the 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 22 seconds mark as May makes her way towards the Sky Dome. Now, while Domee Shi has worked on Inside Out, Incredibles 2, and The Good Dinosaur, Turning Red was her first time as a solo director on a feature film. Although, she did of course helm the adorable short movie Bao, which was also set in Toronto and follows a Chinese-Canadian woman who is suffering from empty nest syndrome until she gets a second shot at motherhood when one of her handmade Bao dumplings comes to life. Domee Shi makes reference to her short film in Turning Red with a restaurant sign reading Bao in the trademark text and design, with the sign being visible in the background at around the 6-minute 13-second mark. Now, we mentioned Luca having a Turning Red Easter egg in the movie, but did Turning Red do the same thing for Luca? As May goes into a frenzy sketching some thirst drawings of her crush Devon, in one of the drawings she turns him into a merman. Now, while the main characters in Luca are more sea monsters than mermen, could this drawing be a reference to the movie? It's a little contentious, but I like to think that it is. The next one is also a subtle reference, but arguably less contentious. But in a blink-and-you'll-miss-it moment on the streets of Toronto, a hanger with a Day of the Dead skull can be seen in the top corner of the frame. The image is very reminiscent of the same hangers and skull symbol seen in the movie Coco, with Day of the Dead obviously being a main theme in the movie. Continuing on with our other Pixar references, there are a couple of costume designs that remind us of the classic Pixar movie Monsters, Inc. Abby's outfit with the pink flowers on her overalls are very reminiscent of Boo's door in the movie, while a t-shirt that one of the kids wears while waiting to see May in panda form looks very much like a monster from that movie. Perhaps one that visited him as a child? Another blink-and-you'll-miss-it reference comes again in sticker form. On one of the stalls in the girls' bathroom, we can see a sticker of a clownfish. Now, this is obviously a reference to the titular fish Nemo from Finding Nemo, with our flippered friend popping up many times in multiple Pixar movies. But my favorite blink-and-you'll-miss-it Easter egg has to do with, in my opinion, one of the best Pixar movies of all time, and a certified tearjerker, Up. In one of the classrooms, a skeleton of a strange-looking large bird can be seen in the corner. That skeleton just so happens to look a lot like Kevin from the movie Up, who was, of course, a snipe, a giant mythical South American bird who Charles and Russell encounter in the movie. I still maintain to this day, though, that it should have been called Wesley. Another reference to a Pixar short movie comes in the form of two umbrellas seen in the Lee household, one red and one blue. Now, on the surface, this may seem like a Matrix red and blue pill reference, but it is actually a nod to the Pixar short The Blue Umbrella, which follows a gentle romance that blossoms during a rainy day in a busy, bustling city between a pair of differently colored umbrellas. Continuing on with the shorts theme, we see a lot of nods to SparkShorts in May's room. Now, this includes Pearl from the short of the same name, which follows an earnest ball of yarn named Pearl, who gets a job at a fast-paced startup, with the figure of Pearl being seen on May's desk.
Hi, I'm Pearl.
The other is a reference to the short Burrow, where a young rabbit embarks on a journey to dig the burrow of her dreams, despite not having a clue what she's doing, and a sticker of Burrow Bunny can be seen on May's notebook. Now, we said we'd get back to them, and that's because it wouldn't be a Pixar movie without a subtle nod to A113, the classroom used by graphic design and character animation students at the California Institute of the Arts, which has become an inside joke at Pixar. And of course, the Luxo Ball, a yellow ball with a blue stripe and a red star that first appeared in the Luxo Jr. short as a prop for Luxo Jr. Now, starting off with A113, the classroom is referenced during the end credits as we see a ticket stub for Four Towns concert with A113 written on it. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I almost missed the Luxo Ball and was starting to think Domee Shi was trolling us when she said it does appear in the movie. But eventually, I found it, which gave me a great sense of relief. If you look closely during Tyler's party in the movie, we can see the famous ball floating around in the pool, which well and truly cements this movie as a Pixar flick. Now, the central plot of the movie is that May must take part in a ritual during the red moon on May 25th if she wants to be free of her panda self forever. But, of course, this is the same day that Four Town are playing in Toronto, causing a conflict of interest for May. But anyway, the reason I bring this up is that if you Google when the red moon, or the penumbral lunar eclipse, to use the scientific name, happened in 2002, you would see that it actually took place on May 26th. So why change the date? Well, that might be because Turning Red is Pixar's 25th feature film, so by having this event happen on the 25th, it might be a reference to that. But then again, who knows? Now, like the Luxo Ball, A113, and the Pizza Planet truck, another Easter egg that often comes up in Pixar movies is the Chinese food takeout box, and Domee Shi was apparently excited to include it in her movie. The boxes appeared in the likes of A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2 and 4, Ratatouille, Inside Out, Soul, and Incredibles 2, and is another main staple of Pixar movies. Just saying though, I've kind of always wanted to eat Chinese food out of a box like that, but I never have. Man, I feel like I'm missing out. Now, on to the Canadian and Toronto Easter eggs, because this movie is as Canadian as Ryan Gosling in a hockey jersey guzzling maple syrup. Or Ryan Reynolds in a hockey jersey guzzling maple syrup. Or Ryan George in a hockey jersey guzzling maple syrup. I don't know, whichever one is your favorite Canadian Ryan. Or, alternatively, your favorite Canadian Justin. Like me, get it? I'm Justin, I'm Canadian. No? Alright, let's move on. In fact, a bunch of the cast, including Sandra Oh and Maitreyi Ramakrishnan, are Canadian. But anyway, let's get on to the Easter eggs. Now, first on the Canadian Easter eggs is the school May and her friends go to, which is named after the 14th Prime Minister of Canada, Lester B. Pearson. Now, while Pearson does have a number of schools named after him, as well as an airport, there isn't one located in downtown Toronto, and this is an invention of the movie, and one to pay homage to Canadiana. I mean, their mascot is a beaver. Man, it is refreshing to have Toronto represented as itself in a movie, and not New York or Chicago or even Gotham for once. And as a Toronto local, Domee Shi made sure to make a number of references specific to the city. Famous Toronto buildings like the CN Tower and the Sky Dome, which is now known as the Rogers Centre, are seen throughout, as well as areas such as Chinatown and Kensington Market. We also see references to Daisy Mart, which is a real chain in Toronto, Tim Hortons' classic cuisine Timbits, which if you haven't tried, you really need to, and Toronto's transit system, the TTC, and their vibrant red streetcars, which look almost exactly like they do in real life. Though I can guarantee that no TTC driver will wait like 5 minutes for you to get on. That bit was rather unrealistic. Oh, and a fun ironic fact involving the TTC, the proprietary software developed and used in-house by Pixar is known as Presto, which is also the name of the system that Toronto commuters use to pay and get around on the TTC, like a London Oyster card or a New York Metro card. Now, there's one thing to know about residents of the Six is that they love their sports teams. I mean, we have all seen what Drake's like at a Raptors game. So it's unsurprising that the local teams are referenced throughout the movie. Speaking of the Raptors, the purple basketball jerseys are a reference to the Raptors' old jerseys, with the number 15 one that Tyler wears being a nod to Vince Carter, who was the king of Toronto before Kawhi and his laugh came to town. The stuffed bear with a blue maple leaf that can be seen throughout the movie is a reference to the Toronto Maple Leafs and their mascot, Carlton the Bear, while the Sky Dome, or Rogers Centre, is the home of the Toronto Blue Jays, which is referenced at the end of the movie as a Blue Jay is seen outside of the stadium as they rebuild it. Turning Red makes a direct reference to Canadian music icon Celine Dion, but there is a more subtle reference to a famous Canadian tune. As May rushes through her flute recital, you can hear that the notes that she's playing belong to the Canadian national anthem, O Canada, which, no matter where you're from, you have to admit, that anthem slaps hard. One of the things that Domee Shi admitted she enjoyed was stumping her American colleagues with the use of Canadian lingo. Canadian phrases are used throughout the movie, such as a toque, which is a winter hat, and a loonie and toonie, which is slang for $1 and $2, as the $1 coin has a loon bird on it, while the toonie, well, it rhymes with loony. As the movie is set in the early 2000s, when boy bands were at their peak, it is no surprise that Four Town are represented in the same vein as Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
May I remind you what real men look like?
Four Town.
Yes!
However, their name is likely a reference to the boy band O-Town and Toronto's very own short-lived early 2000s boy band trio B4-4, which were best known for their song Get Down. See, Canada has given more than just Justin Bieber, The Weeknd, and Drake. They also gave us Nickelback and... Look at this photograph! Every time I do, it makes me laugh. Now, let's get into some name meanings, shall we? Now, of course, May sounds like the month of May when the red moon and the whole movie is taking place, and can be seen as a month where spring changes into summer, which can be seen as a reinforcement of the changing and puberty theme that is prevalent throughout the movie. However, her full name, Meilin, translates as beautiful gem or beautiful rose, with rose reinforcing the red color motif. Although, admittedly, I did also see a translation for the name that read Plum Grove, but I'm no expert on the subject, so I don't know which one is more correct. Now, continuing on with the name meanings, though, the meaning behind May's mother, Ming's name, is bright, which could arguably again reinforce the color motif, while May's father's name, Jin, means tenderness, which feels very in keeping with his softer, more compassionate character. Now, if you were born post-2000, a lot of the nostalgia in the movie may have been lost on you. But if you're an old bastard like me, a number of the references to the early 2000s definitely hit home. Whether it be references to those lovable Tamagotchis or the beast that was the Nokia 3310, the movie is packed full of references to the easier, and dare I say better days of the early 2000s. Now, one of the things that made Turning Red really different to some of the Pixar movies that came before it was that it broke away from the typical 3D animation style Pixar has implemented, and towards the 2D style used by anime that inspired Domee Shi. Now, she admitted that she was a big fan of Hayao Miyazaki's masterpiece, Spirited Away, which also has themes of puberty and going through changes. But she also said that she was directly inspired by the animes Sailor Moon, Ranma 1/2, Fruits Basket, and Inuyasha for Turning Red. Again, for the younger people in the audience, you may not have realized just how big a deal Twilight was, with it being literally everywhere. So, it's no surprise that Turning Red parodies the phenomenon that was Twilight. If you look at the cover of the book Nightfall that Priya was reading, you'll notice that it looks very similar to the cover of Twilight, as well as it being following along with the Twilight and vampire theme. And finally, Pixar like to have some fun with their number plates, and Turning Red is no different, with Ming's license plate reading Systems. Now, whether this is a joke at how organized Ming is and how she has her systems, or if there's a joke I'm missing, which is unclear, I just wanted to throw this in at the end here.